Hello and welcome to the Online Teaching Survival Guide summary for Chapter 9. This is the third phase that provides tips for the late middle of an online course. This phase can be grouped into 4 sets: how faculty members facilitate, coaches, and supports learners, how learners integrate their new knowledge, how learners take responsibility for directing their learning, and lastly, how learners share in the learning direction of their fellow learners. In Set 1, we'll delve into leveraging the power of questions. The first tip talks about questions and answers upside down. Research shows that students build knowledge over time as a result of a series of experiences. So, it is important to design activities in which students can ask questions that reveal the structure of how and what they know. It may mean shifting gears and revising the course to meet where students are. Some valid questions can include: what do you know? What do you think you know? What are relationships and other links to that knowledge? You can play Stump the Expert by asking students to create challenging questions. Students can become the questioners and challenge other students' critical thinking. The second tip is to make your students' knowledge visible. Getting to know your students' zone of proximal development is ongoing. One way is to have students develop their own questions as if they were an interviewer. Second is to identify patterns, relationships, and linkages. Third is to identify insights to what students have learned in the last 2 weeks. Tip 3 talks about getting students to formulate problems and find their solutions. Although learners' exposure to content knowledge is expanding, they might not be able to use that knowledge if it's not being used in a meaningful way. New knowledge will be lasting only if it's being used. The second set delves into assessing learning as you go. The fourth simple rule is information on feedback. Mastering the art of giving students feedback makes a substantive difference in student satisfaction and retention. Peer feedback and feedback from students to faculty encourages dialogue. Learners want to know what faculty thinks about the work they're doing. Provide feedback early and often, and provide feedback on assignments when expected. Also, provide rapid response to questions and provide feedback that is personal and formative. Tip 5 discusses being timely and efficient on feedback for assignments. Standard times for providing feedback for larger assignments is 1 week. Models of exemplar work from previous classes is insightful. Our brains process information chunk by chunk, so it's important to add audio feedback tools that can be helpful or rubrics that are great to have when assessing feedback. Tip 6 delves into reshaping learning habits of online students. Set up question space like a cyber cafe where students can think out loud, exchange process ideas, and network with each other. Try to use the Design by 3 method, where 1/3 of the course dialogue is between student and the teacher, 1/3 of the dialogue is between the student and other students, and 1/3 of the dialogue should be between students and the resources, for example, readings, writings, and other things. Fourth set of tips delves into project work and practices. Tip 7 talks about how to customize and personalize learning. Projects are learners' opportunity to integrate and consolidate their knowledge and make it their own. Reduce the number of team members if need be. Broaden the list of possible topics for the project. Be explicit about the course project. Encourage course projects that combine challenge, confidence, and interest. Next, Tip 8 discusses managing and facilitating group projects. Monitor and guide the group projects by making comments or suggestions. Once the team has organized itself, asynchronous tools such as discussion board forums are useful for sharing progress. State a set of guidelines for how to proceed if problems arise, including managing groups. Tip 10 focuses on a rubric for analyzing critical thinking. Create a rubric for critical thinking. There are 3 stages of critical thinking that you'd like to keep in mind: emerging, developing, and mastering. Tip 11 delves into the 4 effective practices during project time. 1. Help learners get unstuck on projects. 2. Coach learners on personalizing their projects. 3. Ask learners to post progress reports. And 4. Communicate your availability and schedule. The 5th set of tips talk about community empowerment and social networking. In Tip 12, they discuss creating conversations that help build a community. Team your students into groups of 2 for 1 discussion week. Make time for learners to develop the tough questions and construct a round-robin task around 5 phases of knowledge construction tasks. Tip 13 uses social networking techniques to build a learning community. 1. Create a personal project discussion board area for each student. Incorporate social networking into your course. It encourages building a community. Learning is active, specific, and internal to the learner. Web 2.0 tools also empowers learners to communicate. Lastly, tip 14 talks about bringing experts into the classroom. Expert guests provide a change of pace and it creates learning opportunities. Expert events often help in the community building process. What type of content is good for an expert? A simple question and answer format is sufficient. Enjoy and have fun!